Ladies and gentlemen, my fellow reptiles, welcome to the introduction video of the history of Mormonism. This is one of two more videos that are going to be posted on my channel regarding the religion of Mormonism, and this is actually going to be a series of videos not only about Mormonism, but Scientology, Islam, Buddhism, and other such world religions. This is going to be something that's going to be very big on my channel, and I'm going to be putting a lot of work and effort into each of these particular type of series. And it's going to go like each video on Islam or Scientology or whatever the religion that I'm talking about is going to start off with a video titled The History of, example, Mormonism. The second video will be on, for this particular series of Mormonism, will be looking at Mormon beliefs, so you will understand and know what Mormons believe in terms of theology, God, the Book of Mormon, the Bible, and other such doctrines. And the third video of Mormonism that I'll be making is why Mormonism fails. In other words, why the religion doesn't hold up. And if you criticize it, you examine it, you look at the claims that it makes, why the religion is absolutely crazy, nutty, crazy stuff. And we're going to be doing that with other religions, not just Mormonism, but Mormonism is the religion of choice that I am studying on. Actually, I already have studied, and I will be making two more videos after this one on the topic of Mormonism. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy this video of the history of Mormonism. This is a little bit different format than my previous videos, simply because I thought it would be better to bring in visuals. This is only going to be for the history of a particular type of religion. So in other words, when I make my second Mormonism video, you will actually be seeing me for the entire length of the video. But for the history, I think it's important to show off pictures and things that relate to what I'm talking about. So with that said, thanks for watching. Please enjoy, open your mind, and please always be willing to learn. Mormonism's founder, Joseph Smith Jr., was born in Sharon, Vermont on December 23, 1805. 11 years later, Smith and his large family moved to Pamelia, New York, where just a few years later a series of events unfolded that would lead to the founding of the Mormon Church. Now, beginning around 1819, there were several religious revivals in the area where Joseph Smith lived. In 1820, at age 15, he became troubled about the conflict he saw among the people and the clergy of the Methodist, Presbyterian Church, and Baptist churches. His mother, sister, and two brothers joined the Presbyterian Church, while Joseph later claimed that he felt drawn towards Methodists. Because of the strife between the different denominations, and because he was not sure he was right and who was wrong, Smith did not know what to do about joining a different church. But he was soon to receive what he claimed was a divine direction on the issue. This is what is known as Joseph Smith's vision. One day in spring of 1820, as Joseph Smith was reading the Bible, specifically in James verse 1:5, where it says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given unto him." Suddenly, during his meditation, that verse suddenly became alive. He determined to ask God which church to join and went into the woods to pray. There, he received a vision in which he encountered two personages, the Father and the Son. Now, Joseph Smith recounts how, quote, the Son instructed him not to join any of the churches, for they were all wrong. Now, the personages who addressed him said that all of their creeds were an abomination to his sight. Now, accordingly, Smith did not join any of the churches. He did not join the Methodist Church or the Presbyterian Church where his family was located. But neither did the attempts to draw near to the Lord and live a virtuous life. Instead, later he confessed during his next 3 years, and frequently, and I quote, fell into many foolish errors and displayed the weakness of youth and the foibles of human nature. Now, first things first, I have to cover some of the discrepancies of the first vision account here. There are rather significant discrepancies in the existing accounts of Joseph Smith's first vision. There are at least 6 different visions. They are significant because, as one Mormon prophet puts, and I quote, "The appearing of the Father and the Son to Joseph Smith is the foundation within the church." Now, I'm going to show you a small little chart that highlights just a few of the problems with the two major first vision accounts. There's the version in 1832, vision by Joseph Smith himself, and then the church is 1838 version, which is the basis for the story that is told officially in the Mormon Church of today. Now, as you can see here, you have the personage in the 1832 version. Smith claimed only the vision of Christ, and in the 1838 version to the 39 version, which is claimed by the church claims that Smith claimed a vision of both the Father and the Son. The second part is how Joseph Smith sought God. In the 1832 version of the account, it says he was reading the Bible and he was seeking God. In the 1838 version for the church, a revival motivated Smith to seek God. And then, also in the 1832 version of Smith, it says God told him that all the churches were wrong, or Smith already knew all the churches were wrong. And then in the 1838 version, which is now what the Mormon Church says, the two personages informed Smith that the churches were wrong. So as you can see here, these small little 6 examples of the different vision accounts are completely mutually exclusive in terms of the claims that they claim. Nonetheless, this is a video about the history of Mormonism. So let's continue. Smith claimed that when he went to bed on September 21st, 1823, he prayed to God asking for forgiveness for all of his sins, also for a manifestation. This is when a random angel appeared to Morion, I don't know how to say his name correctly, it's Moroni, but this angel appeared and informed him that, I quote, "There was a book deposited, written on gold plates, giving an account for the formal inhabitants of the continent," which would be America at that time, "and the source from whence they sprang." He also said that the fullness of the everlasting gospel was contained in it and delivered by the Savior of the ancient inhabitants. Morions further informed Joseph Smith that Urim, the Terimid, I don't know if I'm saying these correct, a translation device known as the seer stone, was buried with the plates. Now, Moron appeared again to Smith 3 times in the same night, once following the day, and annually for the next 4 years. The angel had warned him that he was not yet spiritually mature enough to take in the custody of the gold plates, but one day he would be. Smith was told that when he was finally permitted to receive the plates, he must not reveal them to anyone except those whom he would be commanded to show them, lest them be destroyed. Is this not crazy? But I have to continue because the history keeps going on. In 1827, 9 months after Smith married Emma Hale, Moron the angel appeared to him, allowing him to retrieve the plates with the charge to keep them safe until another angel should call for them. Smith then translated the sacred records from a Reformed Egyptian into English. Yes, Reformed Egyptian into English. After the translation was complete, the golden plates were removed by Moroni, the angel, and to this day they are unavailable for inspection. What this means is that there is actually no concrete evidence that the plates ever in fact existed. In any event, the original Book of Mormon was published in 1830. But before the plates were taken to the earth, the 3 witnesses, David Whitmere, Martin Harris, and Oliver Crowder, prayed with Smith that they might see them. According to Mormon accounts, the unnamed angel appeared in June of 1829 and displayed the plates so that each one could see the engravings for himself. Harris later testified that he saw the plates with his, quote, spiritual eye, or the eye of faith, rather than his naked eyes. Conflicting reports state that he and other witnesses never saw the actual engraved plates, only some things covered with a cloth. Now, just a few weeks earlier, in May, Smith and Crowderly had gone out in the woods to pray about baptism and the remission of their sins. While they were praying, John the Baptist reportedly randomly appeared at them like a wild Pokemon and conferred, which is known as the Aaronic priesthood, upon them and gave them instructions regarding how to baptize each other. Later, Peter, James, and John all appeared to them, and voila, bing, bang, bada, boom, we have the one true church is born. Now, since Joseph Smith had been told by Jesus that all existing churches and creeds and those who profess them were false and abominable to the one true church which was organized on April 6, 1830, by Smith and 5 others in Fayette, New York, at the founding meeting, Smith received a revelation from God that he was to be, quote, a seer, a translator, a prophet, and an apostle. As the church grew, so did public opposition, forcing Mormons to move up into other areas. According to Smith, he was instructed by the Lord to move into the Church of Ohio, so in February of 1831, he would move to the town of Kirtland, Ohio, and establish the church within there. Within months, however, it became evident that the church would soon need to move again. Public opposition seemed to arise wherever Joseph Smith and his followers went. Now, in middle of July 1831, Smith and a few of his saints arrived in Independence, Missouri. At once, in Missouri, he received a revelation indicating that Zion would be established at this place, a temple that would be built, and the saints would purchase the land. After purchasing some of the land, Smith left some of his followers there to buy the land and establish the church while he and others went back to Kirtland, Ohio. Now, while Smith remained in Kirtland, the church published many of his early revelations under the title The Book of Commandments in Missouri in the mid-1833. But public opposition to Mormon teachings grew swiftly in Missouri. The Mormons' rapid growth and unconventional beliefs caused great alarm in the Jackson country, which was in Kirtland, Ohio. And in July, non-Mormons issued a manifesto stating that their charges against the Mormons and their intent to remove them out of the location. Now, when the Mormons refused to leave, Missourians began a violent campaign against the church, destroying the church's printing office, campaign, and their machines, pretty much. Now, Smith, still in Kirtland, Ohio, learned of the troubles and raised a large group of men to ride to Missouri to defend the saints. And in fall of 1835, Smith published the Doctrine of the Covenants, a dramatic reworking of the then repressed Book of the Commandments. Many changes were made, deletions and additions to those original revelations. Earlier that same year, Smith also acquired assorted Egyptian artifacts, including the papyrus fragments taken from the cavities of some mummies, supposedly. He attempted to translate the portions of them and thus produce the Book of Abraham. This book of Joseph Smith's history, an extract of his own translations of the Matthew and the Book of Moses. This was allegedly lost from the Old Testament somehow, and then somehow magically that was stored by Joseph Smith through a revelation. And the Articles of the Faith were all combined into a single volume entitled The Pearl of Great Price. This is known as the third book of the Mormon scriptures. Although the Mormons continued to move from one Missouri country to another in an attempt to find a permanent place to live, Smith continued to give revelations that caused saints further trouble. The Mormons and non-Mormons were virtually at war, with atrocities being committed by both sides. Governor Limburg of Missouri tried to quit the problems, but the problems just kept escalating. Finally, in October of 1838, he issued an order to the military of the saints arguing and fighting, stating that because, I quote, the attitude of open avowed defiance of the laws and having made open war upon the people of the state, the Mormons must be treated as enemies and exterminated or driven from the state. The Mormons then scattered. Some were killed, others jailed, but many made it out of Missouri to Illinois, where they built an attractive city called Nauvoo, which Joseph Smith asserted I believe it was in Hebrew, which meant beautiful place. I could be wrong on that. I don't remember. I think that's right, but again, I'm talking off the top of my head here. And then this then developed into the second largest city in Illinois. While there, Smith was the mayor of the city and the general of his own army, a candidate for the U.S. presidency, and prophet seer, the revelationer of the Mormon church. And then Joseph Smith dies. The one thing that caused the great concern for many people was Mormons and non-Mormons alike was assorted rumors regarding polygamy. Joseph Smith was definitely a polygamist. The actual numbers of his wives is not known for certain, but estimates range that he had 28 to 84. The most likely account is that he had 33 wives, most of whom were all younger than Smith, being a mere of 14 years of age. If you don't believe me, links down below in the description which all support what I'm saying. His first and true wife, which was known as Emma, was deeply hurt and angered about all this. Joseph, however, had a word from the Lord for Emma to the effect that the Lord would kill her if she did not submit and cleave to Joseph. So right then and there, he was using God, manipulation, and fear to instill that although he's having sex with young 14-year-old girls, his wife needs to stay with him. God and manipulation early in the Mormon Church. Wonderful, isn't it? But by 1842, rumors were widespread regarding these immoralities. On June 7th, 1844, a group of descendant Mormons, angry about their gross immoralities being practiced among the church members, published a newspaper dealing with their grievances against Smith. It was the first and last issue of what it was I mentioned earlier, the Nouveau Expositor. Smith knew that the charges of polygamy and the mishandling church funds would cause trouble for him, so days later, he and his city council decided to destroy the printing office. So yes, he's destroying his own printing office to get things destroyed. This act resulted in Smith's arrest for treason, and he and his brother Hiram and other Mormon leaders were jailed in the Carthage, Illinois. On June 27th, a mob stormed the jail, killing Jospeh and Hiram Smith, which was his brother, wounding many other men. But before Smith died, however, he used a 6-shooter to wound a few men in the mob during the blazing gun battle, and Smith's role as God's prophet, seer, and revelationer came to an abrupt end to bloody violence. It was then when Bringham Young, the senior Mormon apostle at the time of the Smith's death, quickly assumed leadership over the church. There was initial resistance to Young taking over, not the least of which came from Emma Smith, but Young prevailed. A powerful and organizational leader, Young led a company of Latter-day Saints across the treacherous Great Plains, reaching the valley of the Great Salt Lake City in Utah in July of 1847. There, they built their new Zion named Salt Lake City. Young ruled the people with an iron hand and both practiced and encouraged polygamy for the rest of his life. He himself had some 20 lives by the end of the time he died, and he fathered a total of 57 children by 16 of his wives. The practice of polygamy would officially end, however, on September 24, 1890, when a manifesto was issued by Wilberforce Woodruff, 4th president of the Mormon Church, declaring his advice that Mormons give up the practice. Among the various reasons that were of the church top leaders were in jail or hiding in some consequence of polygamy, the United States government threatened to confiscate the church, temples, and other church property, and that Utah had no chance of gaining statehood otherwise. It is estimated that there are still some 30,000 polygamists living castanedly in this state of Utah. Now, the Church of Latter-day Saints, LSD, says that any member caught practicing polygamy will be excommunicated. It is revealing to note, though, however, that even after the 1890 manifesto, a number of Mormon leaders were tried and convicted of unlawful cohabitation with plural wives. Since it began, the church had 15 presidents. Among the most notable are Joseph Fielding Smith, who lived from 1876 to 1972, Spencer W. Kimball, 1895 to 1994, Ezra Taft Benson, 1899 to 1994, and Howard W. Hunter, 1907 to 1905. All of these presidents were viewed as prophets who served as God's mouthpiece. The church is led by the first presidency, a collective trio made of the presidents of the church and the first and second counselor. But already this video has come out way too long. Structurally, the church is divided into branches, which is known as wards, stakes, and areas. A branch is a local congregation with fewer than 200 members and is headed by a branch president. A ward is a local congregation of 200 to 800 members and is led by a bishop. And a stake is a collection of 5 to 12 wards in an area governed by a stake president. An area is a large geographical district encompassing stakes, wards, and branches, and the headquarters of the Mormon Church is, well, in Salt Lake City. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the origin and history of the Mormon Church and how it was established. I realize there's a lot more in-depth material I could have went in, but for sake of length, I basically gave the gist of what you need to know in order to know how Mormonism started. All of the links and quotes and references that I quote in this, I didn't put all the quotes up on the screen, but the quotes that I did use are all down below in the description. You can find the books that and journals and quotes. All of the links are down below, documented and sourced. In case for some reason someone thinks that I'm making up one of the quotes that I used or said, you can find it in the references below. So that said, thank you for watching, and I hope this was helpful.